Play Minecraft and watch Lord of the Rings. Or something like that. I don't know. It's been a while since I've seen it. Like, I think the... When was the last time that I watched through the entirety of Lord of the Rings? That was the last time I watched Lord of the Rings. It was in 2021. The first time I remember, I watched all 3 movies in one day. Basically from sunrise to sunset. That, I'm gonna be honest, was not really that fun. I mean, the movies were good. I loved the movies, but I don't think I liked spending an entire day just watching movies. Just don't like it. Now, I wouldn't mind doing that for Pixar films. Love Pixar films. I could do that. I could 100% do that. Maybe I'll do another Pixar marathon. Like I did, I was about to say last year, but it's 2024 now. So I guess it would technically be 2 years ago. Actually, it would be close to 2 years ago. Yeah. And I also did a Star Wars marathon at the same time. Mostly just because there were so many movies. Not just from the Pixar line, but also even from the Star Wars line. That I hadn't seen. And I wanted to. I barely remembered anything from Solo. And I had never seen, what were the Pixar films I hadn't seen? I think A Bug's Life was, like, the only one. Oh, I hadn't watched Up in a long time. That was one I hadn't seen. Because, like, I had seen Up before, but I hadn't, like, watched it for a long time. And I mostly did, like, the classical Pixar films. I say the classic. I pretty much did them all through Toy Story 4. I pretty much stopped at Toy Story 4. Just because I feel like Pixar has kind of gone a bit downhill. And then from Star Wars, I barely remembered Attack the Clones. And then, of course, like, I hadn't seen Solo in eons. I hadn't seen The Force Awakens in a while. So there were quite a few Star Wars movies that I hadn't seen either. And honestly, like, whenever you see a movie as a kid, or like whenever you're just young, and then you rewatch it as an adult, it's so weird and it's almost life-changing because you start to notice so much in that film. Like, for example, I love The Incredibles. And I understand the plot a million times more. Because I'm able to actually catch things. Whereas whenever I was a kid, I'm just like, oh, giant robot. Like, same thing with Finding Nemo. I mean... Righteous! Sorry. Whenever I was going through the marathon, there was a bit where I did a couple movies with a friend of mine. We had watched them during a sleepover, and whenever it got to the scene with Crush, we were just like, righteous! It was like, we were just dying of laughter almost the entire film. And that's whenever I discovered how much I love watching films with friends. It's just funny because, like, whenever there's something funny and you two pick up on it, it will just continuously be funny between the two of you. It is the best. It's like, even with Finding Nemo, it's like I understood so much more. It's of like, oh wait, why couldn't they touch the boat? Why couldn't they go to the boat? And it's like, I now understand. Oh, wait, that's right. Martin's like an overprotective father because all his children died. Except for Nemo. Nemo was the only one left. Oh, and his wife died too. Golly. Martin's had a sad life. And then there were some that I just hadn't seen in a long time. That I barely had any recollection of, like Up. Which, I'm gonna be honest, is a tiny bit overrated. I really like it. I really do. Like, Carl and, God, what's the kid's name? Russell. Russell. How's his name? The story's really good. I really like the story. But it's like, it does have that Pixar charm. It was just something that was just like, at least with me, it was just kind of like, that was a film. It was a really good film, but that was a film. It wasn't something that, like, pierced my heart outside of the first 5 minutes. That is probably some of the best 5 minutes of animation in existence. But most of the time, it was kind of just like, yeah, this is a pretty solid film. Now, one film I truly believe is underrated is Inside Out. Oh my gosh, what a masterpiece. What an absolute masterpiece. And so there's two things that I tend to look for in films. One is there something I can take away from this film? And two, how funny is it? Because, like, if I can have both of those in the same film, congratulations, you just got a 10 out of 10 for me. But if it has, like, one or the other, then it's just a really solid film. And so Inside Out mostly just had, like, the takeaway part, but it also had a bit of the humor part. But the takeaway, like, mostly just because, like, at the time, I think, like, I don't cry at films. So when I say that I cried at Inside Out, like, I cried. And just the story was so good. And, like, how they played everything out with the emotions and with what the main character was going through. And I really hope they don't mess it up with the sequel. I will come at Pixar's throat if they mess up the sequel. They better not. They better not. And technically, if they're... Wait, how are they have anxiety and fear at the same time if they both kind of fall into the same category? Guess we're doing a difference thing again. It's like soup and stew. Fear tends to be shorter, lived and happens in response to a clear cause. Anxiety is often longer, lasting, and can be more ambiguous. Knowing how to recognize the differences can help you get the right treatment. I guess that makes sense. Yeah, Inside Out is probably my top Pixar film by far. It beats out my childhood favorite. That's how good it is. And you want to know what my childhood... You know what? I will give you 5 seconds to guess what my childhood favorite Pixar film was. I'll give you a couple more seconds. Just for you to think. It's not one I've mentioned yet. Alright. Ready? It's Cars. No, I'm kidding. I actually hated Cars until recently. It was WALL-E. WALL-E's my favorite. I still have the DVD case. We don't have the DVD, but I still have the case for it. Yeah, that was my childhood favorite. I have no idea why. It's like I had like a WALL-E pillow, WALL-E blanket. I had like a WALL-E RC little doohickey, which I actually saw like a more modern replica of it in Target. Except I'm sitting here thinking, oh, this thing's like $30.
It was 50.
So needless to say, I made a very poor financial decision that day. No, I'm kidding. I didn't even have $30 to spend. There were some that I actually, like, through the marathon I just watched, and I'm just like, oh wow, I actually love this movie more. Like, originally, I didn't like the original Toy Story. I just didn't. I didn't like how full of himself Woody was. It was also the same reason why I didn't like the first Cars. It's like, I just didn't like how full of themselves the characters were. But now, I actually am now just like, oh my gosh, I love those films. Not because of the character, like, them being, like, so full of themselves and so full of pride. But at the same time, it's like the characters, they have development. It's like they actually go through things. It's actually feels like, you know, a character. It doesn't just feel like a story. It's like, oh, wow. This person actually changed for the better. That's awesome. It's also why one of my favorite Marvel films is Iron Man 1. Just because, I mean, like, Tony Stark in the MCU films goes through so much until he finally gets out of his prideful self. I mean, like, you don't really see it until, like, Infinity War. No, wait, you don't really see it until, like, Iron Man 3. Or, like, you don't see the tail end of it until Iron Man 3. It's just a character that goes through a rough patch. And they realize, wait a minute, I've been a jerk to almost every single person around me. I should actually, like, stop doing that. And they do. And it's absolutely incredible storytelling. Also, just because the first Cars film is so good with the racing scenes. Like, with the second one, it's just a fun spy thriller. I'm gonna be honest. Does it make sense for the plot? No, absolutely not. It does not make sense, and it does not feel like an actual sequel. But is it still a fun movie? Absolutely. And you know what? I will stand my ground and say that Cars 2 is better than Cars 3. Actually, no, wait. I take that back. Can't put one over the other. I enjoyed Cars 2 more. But Cars 3 feels more and acts more like a legitimate sequel. Like they actually tried. Cars 2 is just some fun spy thriller with cars. Which, do I like that idea? Absolutely. Do I like what they did with Cars 3? No, not really. Like, it was okay. I liked some bits. Like some of the stuff with, it's like there wasn't really much character development. There wasn't really, it was just like, oh hey, I want to get faster. How do I do that? Okay, let's go to these different tracks. Let's try these different things. And so he tries the different things. None of them work. So then he's like, oh hey, let me go talk with, like, Doc Hudson's old coach or whatever. And he does that. And then he learns some new tricks. And it's still not enough. It's just like, bro, just get better. Simple as that. I'm kidding. But, yeah. It was just a thing where it's like, hey, God, how do I put it? Oh no. Cars 3 kind of felt like a mess in most areas. Probably because it was mostly a mess. Cars 2 was also a mess, but at least it was a fun mess. That's probably the best way to describe, like, Cars 2 and Cars 3. Is that Cars 2 is a fun mess, while Cars 3 is a sensical mess. And then the Toy Story movies are also really good. Like, I've already talked about Toy Story 1. Toy Story 2 is an amazing sequel that actually builds upon... It, like, builds off of the previous movie. And it adds a bit more of a layer where it's like, now it's Buzz that has to not only save Woody, but it's like, he's the one that has to get him back in the mindset. And then Toy Story 3 is my personal favorite. I love Toy Story 3, dude. Love it. Love it. Oh, hi. I thought you were the dirt. I genuinely thought that was the dirt. Oh my gosh. Dude had some camouflage. That was incredible. And I'm gonna be honest. I didn't really like Toy Story 4. I saw it in theaters. And at first, I'm kind of like, oh, I kind of like this. This is cool. This is neat. I like this. But it's like, now I'm not really a huge fan. Like, honestly, in regards with Toy Story 4, it's just disappointing. Like, with the other three movies, it felt like it was, like, with Toy Story 4, it always does as with, you know, the other Toy Story films. It builds off of what was already established. Problem was, it didn't build off in a good way. That's my only gripe with it. It didn't build off in a good way. That's like my only complaint about it. It just wasn't put off in a good way. Cause like I liked some of the stuff, but it kind of felt like fan service with the whole just like, oh, we want to know what happened to Bo Peep. It's like, bro, did you miss the line that Woody said? That's like, oh yeah, we lost Bo Peep. It's like, yes, like honestly, I kind of wish that they did more of a thing, like, cause they mention like, they're just like, yeah, even Bolt. Like he mentions that, but it's like he sounds more sad about Bolt than he does with Bo Peep. But it also kind of like it's like said in such a way where it's like it's almost as if he's like currently either he's working on moving on or he has moved on. Like honestly, I will say my favorite characters from Toy Story 4 are 100% Buddy and Ducky. Those characters are so fun. Like, oh my gosh, I love those characters. Like, if we're, like, since we're already having a Toy Story 5, bring back Bunny and Ducky. Bring them back. My gosh, they were funny. They were so funny. Their dynamic was great. I couldn't tell if that was just because they were funny or what. I don't really have much else to say on Toy Story 4. Most of it was just kind of bland. Oh no, wait, there was one thing. The whole thing with Woody just up and leaving Bonnie because of Bo Peep. Like, the whole reason why he was staying with Bonnie was because of Andy. And yet, now that pretty much Andy's out of the entire picture, he's kind of just like, well, screw this, I'm done. And I'm kind of like, what? It's like, it kind of, you know, kind of feels like they're throwing away a lot of his character development. Like that's kind of what Toy Story 4 felt like. Felt like a step backwards rather than a step forwards. Let me think. What are, like, some other sequels in Pixar films that... You know what? I think Monsters University is a pretty good movie. And I'm not saying this just because I'm in college. I mean, it's a great college film. But it does a really good job of, like, just, you know, dealing with criticism and, you know, how do you view yourself while at the same time, it also does a really good job with Sullivan in how they deal with his character. Because, like, at the beginning, it's like he's just this dude who's like, rawr. I'm son of Fritz Sullivan. Fear me if you dare. But it's like, it's just, like, most of the time I'm kind of just like, this is interesting. But then right at the end, that scene by the lake is so good. Oh my gosh. That one scene alone is so amazing. And of course, just everything else about Monsters University. Like, the dynamics of the characters. And, like, don't undersell yourself. Like, it's so good. It's so good. I love it. I love that film. What else? Do I have any hot takes when it comes to Pixar films? I mean, most of my opinions are kind of, like, close with everyone else's. At least the general consensus. Like, you know, Finding Dory bad, Incredibles good. You know what? Here's a hot take. Stop being mad that The Incredibles 2 took 14 years to make a sequel. Do research on Brad Bird. Seriously. You'll understand why it took 14 years. Because, no joke, he started planning the Incredibles movie like almost 10 years before it came out. On top of that, he was the only director, writer, and producer for both films. I mean, he had a team, but for the most part, he was doing everything on his own. Like, honestly, so many people are just like, oh my gosh, The Incredibles 2 is bad. The only bad aspect, I think, from The Incredibles 2 is the wasted potential of the Screenslaver. I really like the villain idea of the Screenslaver. He seems like a really cool villain. Really awesome concept. And then they just throw it away for evil endeavor. It's... The villain feels like a throwaway, but the rest is absolutely incredible. Nope, I did not mean for that to be a pun. But you get my point. In that it is an absolutely amazing film. I love every single bit of the first Incredibles. And then the second Incredibles, it's like the only thing it kind of felt like a miss on was, well, you know, the villain thing. That was the only thing it felt like it missed. The rest, mwah, chef's kiss. Chef's kiss. And, like, everything, like, from animation to music, everything is just absolutely incredible. I guess I could do some hot takes for Star Wars now. So I think I've talked plenty on Pixar. I mean, I feel like general consensus. Original trilogy is really good. Prequel trilogy is eh. And the sequel trilogy sucks. Yeah, that's it. I mean, like, the original trilogy is, well, original. It's absolutely a solid, amazing story, amazing characters, fight choreography. Like, what is there not to like about the original trilogy? Like, seriously, what is there not to like? It's amazing. Absolutely phenomenal. Just like this chest. That, like, honestly, I cannot recall a single bad moment from the original trilogy. I will say, this is just my own opinion, I think The Empire Strikes Back is just a bit too overrated. It's like, I love it. I love the film. Love it. It's an amazing film. But I don't think it's the best in the original trilogy. Now, if I tell you what I think is the best in the original trilogy, you will hate me. Because I think the best in the original trilogy, well, I say the best. My personal favorite out of the original trilogy is Return of the Jedi. Yes. Return of the freaking Jedi. Why is this? Not just because of the end scene with Luke and his dad, but also just because the Ewoks are so funny. I don't know why I found the Ewoks to be that amusing. Like, they were just so amusing. So, yeah. And if we're following, don't really follow this to a T. But if it's like, if we go with the whole thing of, like, the two things that I look for in movies, it applies with both. Luke's plan does not make any sense at the start, but the beginning is really good. And the middle is really good. Just everything about it is so good. The prequel trilogy, I honestly like most of the prequel trilogy. It's not the best. Definitely not the best. But it's got some good stuff. Like, I really like, I like the Phantom Menace. I like what they set up. It's definitely not a perfect film. Definitely has the best lightsaber duel of all time, though. Don't think anyone's arguing about that one. The pod racing, honestly, the pod racing, dude, that's freaking sick. Oh my gosh, I want a pod racer in real life. I straight up, it's like, bro, the pod racer in real life, can you imagine how awesome that would be? Just zooming down the interstate in your freaking little doohicker. And then, of course, Darth Maul, like, gets... Yeah. He's still really cool, like, in the Clone Wars series, which I actually really need to watch. I have yet to watch the Clone Wars series in its entirety, and I feel really bad. Because I've heard it's so good. I've seen plenty of bits. Like, I think the Siege on Mandalore plot. The Darth Maul arc. I've seen that. The Night Sisters arc. I've seen that one too. I think that's most of what I've seen. But I've most of the time I've just seen clips. Oh, and the second half of season 7. Attack of the Clones. I think I've only seen it once. Which, you know, from what I remember, it's just cheesy and it's not great from what I can remember. I just remember I was just like, oh, when will it end? And then I was watching it with some friends. And then I'm just like, oh my gosh, we have to be near the end with this. And they're like, we're only an hour in. And I'm like, huh? How is it only an hour in? What the heck? So, needless to say, I felt as if I was banging my head against the wall for pretty much the entire thing. Which, it's not the worst experience I've had with Star Wars so far. I'll get to that. Now, I don't really have much to say on Attack of the Clones. Now, Revenge of the Sith. That's a pretty good Star Wars film. You could, like, honestly, with the prequel trilogy, you can say what you want about, you know, the story, how it's all written, blah, blah, blah. Like, honestly, it's dumb. Like, we can all admit, it's pretty dumb. But you also gotta admit, it could be really fun. Like, it could just be an absolutely fun, solid film. Like, a movie can be stupid and fun at the same time. It's just movies. They're meant to be stupid and fun. So, yeah. I rest my case. The fight at the end with Anakin and Obi-Wan, and then, Sidious versus Yoda, that's pretty good. I don't know. I don't really think I have anything else to say. Oh, no, wait. I just remembered. I haven't gotten to the sequel trilogy yet. What the heck happened with the sequel trilogy? Like, I haven't done my full research as to why it's so bad. But, like, everything in the whole trilogy is just atrocious. And a company like Disney should not have flunked this hard. This shouldn't have even been a possibility. And yet, now we have 3 movies to save it for this. And I'm sitting here wondering, what the crap? Like, The Force Awakens feels like nostalgia bait the whole way through. Like, the entire thing feels like nostalgia bait and A New Hope plot. Like, I'm not even kidding you. I don't think I've ever... Whenever I was rewatching it from my marathon, I don't think I had ever gotten so outraged at a movie before. Because I literally... So, I ran in chronological order. I think that's the right term for that. Basically, I went... Instead of doing, like, 4, 5, 6, 1, 2, 3, 7, 8, 9, I did 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. And I've watched the entirety of these films over the span of about a week. And so, basically going straight from Return of the Jedi into The Force Awakens really grinded my gears. Because I'm sitting here like, bro, you're copying this, you're copying this, you're copying this, you're copying this. This has already happened. This has already happened. This has already happened. What are you doing? Like at a certain point, I just had to take a break. Which I've never really had to do. I needed to take a step back and watch a movie. There's only one other movie that has done that to me. And that was Lego Ninjago. But I'm not here to talk about funny elemental ninjas. I'm here to talk about Disney's stupidity. At least in part. I'll probably just say these things in part. The Last Jedi, I've liked what was introduced. I really like some of the things that were introduced, like Ray kind of being like this nobody, just this person that was kind of just here, I guess. But with the whole thing, like whenever I forget his face, whoever it was that like came in and kind of just threw all that out the window. I don't think I've ever seen a bigger mistake in cinema history. Like, I still don't even know what to say to this day. It's just saddening. I mean, literally in the freaking Rise of Skywalker, that was the worst film. That was absolutely the worst film. There's literally a guy that shoots at the ceiling in the final fight scene with the Imperial Guards. Literally look back at the footage. I'm not kidding you. There's a guy that shoots at the ceiling. I'm like, bro. And then of course they just brought Palpatine back. They just pulled it straight out of their butts because they had no idea what to do. Yeah. Having said that, I'm really tired. It's 3 in the morning. I somehow have 6 enchanted golden apples. I hope my rants have somehow appeased you in some sort of way. And having said that, I bid you adieu, and I hope you have a pretty fantastic night. Or day, or whatever it is that you're doing at the moment. Pray that it goes well for you. Let's just go with that. Catch y'all later.